Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sharpened Perspectives, episode 15. I am Jim Vandeveld of HMC Knives / HMC Manufacturing, and I am joined today by my lovely co-hosts, Ken Spaulding of Zodiac Engineering and Alex Steingraber of SPK Unlimited. What's up, guys?
Oh, you know, sick.
Same.
That seems to be the common theme. I spent this whole week, so we're coming off of like my kids being sick for like 2 weeks straight, like successionally. Like I had a kid throwing up on the floor of my bedroom every night for like a week. And like, as I'm entering prep of like this show, just praying to God that like I don't catch it so that I can just get through what I need to get through and get through California. And somehow I've come to the conclusion that like kids' weak-ass immune systems and ailments do not afflict near 40-year-old white men, because I have caught nothing. Whereas...
You can't say that.
I can say that. That's my white privilege talking right there. But we have Alex, who has RSV and COVID and is nearly dead. Any of those on video can see he's like got a red face from just blowing his nose and not being able to breathe. And I feel like Ken has perpetually had like a pneumonia-ish type respiratory infection for like weeks and weeks also, which is ironic because I'm choosing to enter the gauntlet of this knife show with him at my table next to me. So hopefully I'm sick on the flight home.
We're in California, so nobody will look twice if anybody has a mask on. But I think I'm pretty good.
Nah, you look a lot better than you have in weeks past. Alex looked like he's in the thick of it. And I'm in the thick of something.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you were over the weekend. You were even riding the struggle bus, it seemed.
That was the struggle bus, was the weekend. Yesterday was like I was running on just caffeine and adrenaline, just trying to get parts to all these places, driving around everywhere. And then today is finally just like the light at the end of the tunnel, finally.
You feel like tomorrow, if you sleep well tonight, you'll wake up feeling like drastically improved?
Yeah, like 100%.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've crested the precipice and you are on the downhill side of the hill.
Yeah, and I'm hoping like the rest of the year, hopefully next year, I don't get any more illnesses because I got them all already. Like I have everything that's going around, right?
Oh yeah, you have everything except for AIDS.
No
AIDS
yet. All at once.
I need to catch AIDS, and I think I'll be good.
There you go.
Yeah, you California guys don't really understand that. Like, I know you have some seasonal change, but like honestly, the transition from winter to spring and from fall to winter, like inherently in the northeastern part of the United States, like everybody gets sick. It's just a thing. And like, I don't know, I've avoided it. I haven't been like deathly ill in a long time where like I can't get out of bed type of situation, but you know, hopefully we can avoid that. But yeah, I am actually in my own thick of things. I have been making knives for like the last 4 days straight, like 16 hours a day, and I haven't been talking to anybody or doing anything, but the end is in sight. I have one knife left to finish.
Dude, that's awesome.
It's kind of crazy that on Sunday night, I'm looking at a pile of parts, and I'm like, how in the hell am I going to finish 8 knives for this show? And honestly,
because
go ahead.
Oh, it's funny because last week you're like, oh, I'm probably just gonna finish them the day before, like I always do, and like now you're pretty much done.
Yeah, I said this to my wife. Like it's just the side effect. I think I've done this like exact same prep. In July, I did it for Portland, and it took me 3 weeks between. But that was when I was I was designing and manufacturing all the components for the 3.2 subliner, so that took a longer amount of time. And then I did it for makers, I did it in like 11 days. And now this time I've actually progressively made more knives. Like I think for Portland, I only brought 6 or 5. No, I only brought 4. And then for makers, I brought 6 or 7. And then now I'm bringing 8 and 2 full dress knives to this show. So I think part of it is, I was talking to my wife about it. Part of it is just like the process is getting dialed, and like I have a confidence, you know, in the process, just because I've kind of gone through it, where I'm not like haphazardly moving through the steps. It's like I just have it pretty dialed in. And I think the other side of it is I've just improved like my manufacturing process for all these parts too. Everything's coming out better. There's not as much deviation or like manipulation of parts or replacing of parts because I'm having issues. Like everything is just kind of going together. Even when I ground these blades, I can tell I've ground a lot of blades this year, because typically for like a belt satin finish on a primary, like the primaries of a knife, like it would take me 25 to 30 minutes and I was doing these ones in like sub 10 minutes a knife. Like it just was like going really smoothly. They all turned out like really similarly, like edge thicknesses, and like just everything went really smoothly. I was just blessed. I didn't have any lock issues. I didn't have any detent issues. Like usually I'll have 1 or 2 knives that I'll have detent playing, that I'm like either upsizing my stop pin to manipulate, or I'm going to a bigger detent ball and opening up the hole in the blade. But like all these detents are solid. I had a very little bit of lock stick that I had to work through, but like for the most part, it's been really seamless. Another thing that I did to help this process along was I brought in a buddy. You know, he came over and I just paid him hourly for a day or two, and he just blasted all the hardware, blasted all the spacers and clips and liners, and blackened every, you know, he just did all like the ancillary stuff that like, you know, I would have sat down and done myself, and it was just super monotonous. You know, I've actually, another thing, I'm going to talk for another minute here, then you guys can cut in with your sick voices.
It, dude.
Another thing I did differently was usually I batch everything. So like I'll set all locks, set all detents, grind all blades, which I did do. But this time I actually, when all that stuff was done, I assembled a knife and tuned each knife and sharpened each knife one at a time. So rather than sitting there and like having to like work through the same problem on 7 or 8 different knives, it was fix it on one and then do the flats on the blade, do my final blade finish that I do and sharpen it, assemble, Loctite, done. Okay, that one's finished. And like I had that like mental thing of like, okay, 1 in the bag, 2 in the bag, 3 in the bag, you know, and like I was able to stay confident because I was like, okay, I at least know that I have 2 knives to bring to the show, and then 3 knives to bring to the show. So I kind of looked at it a little bit differently this time, and it made things go a lot smoother.
That's kind of what we talked about in the before makers with my stuff. It was like I had 15 in process, but you're like, dude, just finish one. Everything's already done as far as like manufacturing goes, but all the fitting and finishing and stuff. So that definitely helped it mentally as well.
Oh yeah,
knowing that I'm going to have X amount to bring.
Yeah,
so,
and the other side of it too is like, you know, if you have one that's having a problem, just set it off to the side and grab the next one. You know what I mean? And like leave the problem child for the very end when you're like, well, you're not stressing about getting it done. It's like, well, whether this works or not, I have all the rest of them already ready to go. I had that one, and my 4th one, it was way off center, and I was like bending my liners trying to get it to come on center, and like I just set it aside. And I got to it at the end, and I ended up going back, and the liner was just fucked up in some way. Like it just, whether the pivot hole was out of square or something, maybe it was too tight in the pocket, and it was just kicking it off center. And I just grabbed another liner from the pile and threw it on there. And it was like, you know, within 5 thousandths of center, I just had to do a little bit of tweaking of the liner, and it was good to go. But,
nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling good. Of course, the most complicated one I have left is the one that I have left. It's a dark tie subliner with zirconium. It's more or less like a carbon copy of the one that I did for makers. But it has the new pattern of the Bromascus blade that we forged. I was originally going to use that blade on that green Spaulding G11 that I shared with you guys before we started recording. And I was going to just not make another one, but I ended up deciding to make a second fancy knife, and the open pattern on the wind pattern of that Bromascus blade, I think complements the really open pattern of the dark tie. Whereas I ended up making that Turkish twist blade that's really densely patterned. And I think that works a lot better with like the solid scale, like they're not as contrasting. So that was kind of like a last minute pivot, but I'm so happy I did that. Cause like that one I showed you, man, that's like the quintessence of like what I like in a dress knife, like a rare material and a cool color with a lot of zirc, and then like a cool blade that like has like a finish that matches. That blade was originally like truly mirrored, and I was just going to flash etch it. And I realized that like that gunmetal-y, like dark Damascus, I thought would go a lot better with the motif of the knife. And man, I'm happy I went that route.
Nice. That was the one you sent today?
Yeah. That's why I sent the video too, because it just looks like it's got like a dark ferric etch or a light ferric etch. But then when you send the video and you see it rotate, you're like, oh, it's still mirrored. It's just like gray overall. So yeah, super awesome. Happy with that one.
Yeah, it's like when you have super high polish on something and it turns like black.
Yeah, that's interesting to do. That's a finish I've kind of tweaked. It really, to get that darker finish that maintains the mirror, because like guys will use muriatic, but if you use muriatic to keep your brights bright, then it will rainbow like your brights and like cloud them a little bit, but they'll still be very shiny. And if you use ferric, you know, you lose all, it gets very matte finished and kind of chalky. I'm using sulfuric acid, but one of the keys to getting that gunmetal-y look is heating it to a very specific temperature, because it etches too slowly if it's not heated, and you don't get the darks, the dark darks, and you'll get no contrast in the brights. And so by heating it, you're kind of like giving that gray hue to the brights while still maintaining the vibrancy of it. And that's how you get the dark darks with sulfuric on those acids. Otherwise you'll get one of those etches that like looks good if you have it in the right angle, but if you bring it into light, like it almost looks like it has nothing etched on the surface, because there's like no depth to it and no buildup of like the carbon or whatever. So yeah, it's been interesting. You do a lot of Damascus for a long time, and then this year I've really been playing around with Damascus finishes, and it was something I used to really hate doing, and I've really found a way to enjoy it now that I have a pretty solid process.
Nice. Yeah, I think the only Damascus stuff that I ever did was that fusion keychain. I mean, I did a couple blades here and there, but that was like the one thing that I did. Yeah, the Fusion Cam Challenge.
You and Sam Passenger were squaring off on that one. Venom Defense.
There was a lot of guys going at it at that one. They need to do another one again soon. I still have it on my keychain. I've had it on there since. And that was like 2016, I think. But yeah, I think I did that one in ferric, and it was all pretty matte from what I remember.
Yeah, that's it can look cool. I know a lot of guys that do it well. The problem is like if you touch it, you get like oil spots from your fingerprints, and like it gets scratchy and chalky. Even even if you do a ferric etch and then you go to sharpen it, like just rubbing off like the compound from like using your leather strop will like remove the ferric from that edge. It looks like dog shit. So yeah, I don't know. I avoid it at all costs. Some guys, that's all they use. I fucking hate ferric etches. They're not user friendly. They're not finger friendly. They're nothing. They just look cool if they're oiled and in a photo.
Yeah. Yeah. It lost pretty much most of the contrast over the years. But I've been carrying it with my keys the whole time too. So it's been banging around, but
yeah, I mean, it is also a surface finish that like is an oxide layer that just wears off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be cool. So, you're in the similar situation. Someday both of you will end up doing maybe a Damascus knife or two, and like, really stand out against like the sea of users that you've created. I've kind of put myself in the same place where it's not the standard, it's the exception, and it just makes them that much more special. I know a lot of my friends, like they don't even like mono steel and they only use Damascus, which means they make a lot of cool knives, but then it also means your market is laden with that work. And I feel like in some ways it kind of devalues like to do an auction. It's hard to make a knife so special that it's worth auctioning, and then it's not all, you have to work extra hard to make it dissimilar enough from like your table knives to like justify the additional cost, and I think that's kind of tough. I kind of like the idea that like when, somebody has a fancy knife for me, like they had to work pretty hard to get it, whether it's by spending money or waiting a long time. I don't typically throw all the premium materials at any one knife. That was actually something I learned, got from Santiago when I very first started making knives. And like, he would always have like a titanium frame lock with like a Damascus blade, or he'd have like Westinghouse and Zurich liner lock with like a hand rubbed blade. And like very rarely did you see a knife that had he would call it all the touches, all the premiums. And he's like, you can't give them that. You know what I mean? Like that's what an auction knife is. An auction knife is all the way. A guy can get a knife at table price he can get some pieces of the puzzle, but like he can't get the whole pie. And I kind of took that to heart. Like I've made a few like book knives or lotto knives that are full dress, but for the most part, I try and reserve that for like very special situations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's kind of another reason why I kind of want to get rid of the whole ano thing, which I'm going to. I don't think anodizing really adds as much value as people think. No. And the fact that literally anyone can do it, I mean, it kind of devalues it in a way. I think when it was like first coming around, I guess, but even then it's just like you could still do it in your kitchen if you wanted to. So
anodizing is deeply corny to me. Deeply corny. I think that there's some situations that are cool. Like I really like what John does, Scoopy Loops, you know, where he has like really tasteful, interesting anodizing on like trinkety things. Like I think that can be cool because like, you know, you're just trying to spice up like a trinket, but like for it to be like a premium finish offering on like a user tool, like it just doesn't have the longevity. Like, again, I think we talked about this before. I like it on accents, like pivot screws and titanium shit. Half the reason I use titanium hardware is so that if a guy wanted to anodize his shit, he could. But yeah, beyond that, I'm not a big fan of it as a scale finish. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think it's neat on like, if you did like a Timascus backspacer and then you anodized
to get some just different colors, like you ano it and then heat anodize it to kind of make it look that weird, like crazy electric shit. I like that to an extent, but there's a lot of guys that have like really played that out hard. Like, you know, like Gavco has done so much of that, like electric shit that like when I see it, I almost like think of him when I think of it. And now it doesn't feel like something I want to do because it feels like it's something that those guys are known for. And you're kind of just like copycatting. You know?
Absolutely.
Not that that is true. That has no real leg to stand on. That's just like my immediate association and like why I kind of like retract from doing it.
Bronze looks pretty cool. That's kind of the only color that I actually like.
100%. Bronze is the only non-fucking electric color. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everything else is like so vibrant as where bronze is just like, it's kind of rad. Like we talked about that. Like I like a blackened piece of titanium that's tumbled with like bronze ano on the burnished areas or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
Looks so good.
Yeah, definitely rad. So I'm wrapping up my stuff here and I'm heading out your way Friday morning.
You figure out what you're going to do yet? Are you still going to go
I don't know.
Blade Affair? Or?
I was going to kind of gauge it off of what the traffic looked like when I arrived. You know, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get my rental car and shit. And like, I will say, just like as the hygiene freak that I am, the idea of traveling all day and not being able to take a shower like immediately when I get there is like, I don't like that idea. So like if I get off, you know, get my rental car and type in the address and they're like, yeah, it's going to be 3 hours till you get there. Like I ain't fucking going there.
Fuck
you
that.
know,
Just
like,
come here.
I'm not going to sit on the fucking highway for 3 hours. I'll come to your house. And I think it runs from like 6 to 10. You know what I mean? So I probably would just like wait until like, you know, the rush hour's over. Like what's the traffic time frame usually look like? Is it like 4 to 7? Is it 3 to 6? Like what is the worst?
Downtown LA is probably the worst of it. And you're going to most likely take the 405 up, cut across through there. So you might bypass some of it, but Friday night, you know, Friday afternoon, Friday night, it's going to suck probably most of the day. But there's been times where Brittany and I will go out to LA, you know, for dinner or something on a Friday or whatever. And we'll leave like 7 o'clock and it's usually not too bad.
Yeah. Okay. So I might have to wait it out just for a couple
really
hours.
At the interchanges, which is pretty normal. But yeah, I mean, if you waited a couple hours, you should be fine. But yeah, check Waze.
I'll probably just roll to your place and maybe hop in the shower when I get there and then just chill with you until we'll see.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I gotta check into it. But
that'll be cool.
I don't know. It's gonna, even though it's like not a whirlwind weekend, it's gonna go by quick, you know, between getting there and then the show and then picking up my brother and being down this way for Sunday and then I'm out Monday. You know what I mean? It's like it always goes by too fast.
Yeah. Are you staying in Woodland Hills?
Just on Friday night. Yeah. I got a hotel in between the airport and SoFi. I think actually the hotel's in Inglewood just because I didn't feel driving back and forth to pick them up for Saturday night and then drive back and then drive back down for the Chargers game and then drive back and then drive back down to fly out. It just felt like a lot of driving. So yeah, just Friday night is Woodland Hills. And then I got some fucking baller Motel 6 room for Saturday and Sunday nights. $100, baby. It didn't look horrible, but as long as it has a shower and a bed, you know what I mean? That's all I care about.
So bring your shield or whatever you're bringing.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fine.
Is it pretty rough over there?
That whole area is not too bad. I mean, that's kind of like gangland, you know, South LA, pretty much that whole area, Compton, Inglewood. That's pretty much like all like West Coast rap is pretty much there. Now. Yeah. But you'll be all right.
Why would they build the stadium there?
Cheap. I don't know. I don't like football.
I just don't understand that. You're going to build a $2 billion stadium facility in like the heart of the hood
where everybody watches football.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on. What do you guys? Alex is working on not dying. He got some work holding in from Fifth Axis, and he's been handling his base plate design and that stuff. And Ken has been. I saw he was like making some blade components for Datums and was kind of going over some issues that he was having. But other than that, have you guys just been kind of laying low this week or what?
I've just been running blades. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
No, you go ahead.
I don't care, dude.
How many pieces of steel do you have how many blades do you have to process?
I got 35. So I bought 5 sticks. They're 36 inches long. I can get like 7 and change. So I get 7 blades out of each stick.
Nice.
So I've got 35 blades in process. I've already saw cut everything. I prepped everything on the blade or on the belt grinder just to kind of remove any high spots and break edges and stuff. And I can throw them straight in the mill. So I'm running on. So when I ran these original ones for the Datums, I did them on that kind of generic fixture that I had. That was just a grid of holes with bores in it. And so I basically had to reprogram everything in the soft state on the new fixture that I used for the hardened state on the first run of these.
Gotcha.
So I'm going through that and just working out some things like the original ones. I did a plug in the window. Obviously, you know that, but I did a plug in the window to keep them from collapsing, but some of them did expand as well. So what I did was I just left a web all the way through this whole thing. This stuff finishes like shit in the soft state.
How thick's the web?
It's like 60 thou. I was worried about going too thin and having it crack in there. But because this stuff machines pretty well, like I machined a lot of these tabs and a lot of this stuff like in the hardened state, all the way through last time, and it wasn't too bad, but I have a hole going all the way through, so I can just pop through and then slot them out. So I think using a ball and mill or a bull nose and just going shallow passes and knocking it out shouldn't be too bad. But I didn't want to mess with having it warp or crack or anything like that, so I just left it thick. I'll deal with it later, and if it ends up being a problem, I'll make it thinner next time. But that was easy enough. Plus, I'm a little concerned about when I send these to grind, if they grind more than one side. That really doesn't matter for the window because the window's going to get removed anyways. But I am roughing out the lock face on these. And one thing that I did notice is that I had to modify my stock thickness in Fusion, which moved my blade, moved all the stuff properly because it was all jointed that way. But I didn't have the surface that I programmed the lock face off jointed to the blade. So it moved the blade up by like 13.5 thou because this stock thickness is thicker than the ones that I did last time because those came pre-ground. Oversized, but they were already ground to a specific thickness. And it didn't move the lock face surface up with it. But luckily I left enough radial stock on there to where I only ran like 4 or 5 of those with that. And then I checked everything and there's still stock for those to clean up in the hardened state. But
nice.
Yeah, I'm just out here running these. So I've been running, I came out like 6 and started it. I loaded it up last night. I got to figure out a way to kill my phase converter at the end of the cycle. So at the end of the night, I can just start this thing because the machine, I can shut it off, but I don't want to have the RPC running for all night.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of a way, if anybody out there knows of an easy way to just kill that. I mean, I guess I could set it with a timer and have some kind of switch on it or something, but
so
because it is
a timer.
Yeah, it's 220 single phase, 240. So, or sorry, it's 240 single phase. So I can't use like a smart switch or something that I can just, Alexa turn my
like
RPC
a
off,
plug or whatever.
It's too high. Yeah, the voltage is too high, or the amps are too high. So I got to figure something out with that. There are some like SwitchBot makes some little fingers. It's literally just it sticks on there and then it's a finger that pushes the button. And I think to turn that off, it shouldn't need too much. I might even be able to just do something like that and then set an alarm or something and kill it later. So
that'd be hysterical if you had a little robot finger that just pushed your button for you.
Yeah, SwitchBot. That's who makes those. Yeah. So the cameras that I have are all from them too. So it works out pretty well.
Do they make one that can throw a giant disconnect? Fuse, a giant 200 amp fuse disconnect? Because that'd be great.
I don't think so, man. That'd be sweet though. I mean, you could probably rig something up that drops a bunch of weights or something, but
I'm not worried about the power side. I just get worried about having it open for surges. You know what I mean? I like just having it disconnected so you don't have some fucking storm come through and destroy my. I mean, I have like an $800 surge protectors inside of the phase converter, but you know, even to replace those, even if it's protected me, I wouldn't want to have to replace them.
That would suck. So
even those fucking those fuses. Like for my disconnect, because obviously they don't make a 200 amp breaker. Like I had to get a legitimate like fuse disconnect, and the fuses, there's 3 of them inside of there, and they're $65 a piece. But they're fucking huge.
So much little shit adds up.
Oh yeah, it adds up for sure.
Yeah.
So you're running blades. What's your cycle time look like on your for op 1?
It's 34 minutes right now for all this, which is a little bit longer than I wanted, but it's reliable too. So I'm starting with just a rectangle blank. This goes in. I've got 2 pit bulls that clamp it into the fixture. It does the pivot hole and then mills the slot for the tab hole, and that's actually slotted. And then it reams the finish bore on here also. So from there, then it goes to the next fixture, and that roughs out all of the stock. It roughs the lock face, it roughs the stop pin track, and then drills through and does half the window on there, and then does a semi-finished pass around the outside. And then the next one, it flips, and then it just chamfers the outside, and then does the other side of the window. I could have done it all from one side, and it would have cut out most of the cycle time.
So 34 minutes is all three operations.
That's all of this. I need to add the primaries in there too, in the same program. I have the tool and everything is already all ready to go. But because the stock thickness changed, everything moved in my sketches and all that. So I got to basically just redo the sketches. Moving forward, I think I just wanted to save cash on this run until I run, sell all these out. I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to get the stock, saw cut it, and then double disc it oversized to a consistent thickness so that I don't have to change this every single time to run them, because it's just smart. It's annoying and it's unreliable. Like I'm worried that I'm going to miss something and then I'm going to run all these blades and then that's not going to clean up or something, because, like the lock face, the geometry wasn't up, and I woke up in the middle of the night and like, fuck, that face, I don't think was jointed. So, little stuff like that. So, I got to get a quote from the local grind spot. It sucks. Like I wish I still had my grinder, but that thing was so fucking big. It literally took up like half my garage. So I'm glad it's out of here, and it's being used now, which is nice.
Just hit up the guy that bought it from you and be like, yo, surface grind these for me.
Yeah. There's so many grind spots locally. I got to just hit them up.
So must be nice.
Yeah. Plus I want to have, plus I want to send these things to heat treat. Plus I want to send these to heat treat and then get them back and go back to double disc grind. For final thickness.
You're going to double disc them after heat treat to their final thickness?
I think so. I mean, they have surface.
I've never had anything double disced hard.
I don't know. That's the thing. I got to hit them up and see if they can do it that hard.
I have a few times. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I imagine they can.
It's not terrible.
I have parts done or parts that I mill for a company, and I think they're D2, A2 or D2, and they're at like 62 Rockwell, and they double disc them.
Nice.
And they're extremely consistent. They're dead flat. They're parallel. I basically
that
just
K390.
say, hey,
those K390 blades were double disc ground at 66 HRC.
Nice.
Like I told them the hardness. They're like, we don't fucking care about the hardness. Doesn't matter to us.
Most places doesn't give a shit.
Do you use Nifty Bar?
Yeah, I use Nifty Bar for everything. Well, not everything. Double disc grinding and water jet. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, they do my double disking. They do a decent job. I've never had them do anything hard though.
What do you have in them spec for thickness and parallel and flatness and all that?
Pre-heat treat?
Yeah. I mean, pre-heat treat I guess doesn't really matter that much, but for
pre-heat treat,
I just give them a thick.
Yeah, I just give them a thickness tolerance, and they hit it, and it's usually within 0.2 across the little parts but that I have.
They're not
giving
flat.
Them like a thou total.
I've found like.
I'm sorry. What did you ask? I spaced out for a second. What'd you ask?
He took him down.
He asked you how you're speccing flatness and parallelism to Nifty Bar. You're just giving him a thickness.
Oh, I'm just giving them a thickness tolerance. I'm not speccing parallelism with them because they tell me what they can hit as far as parallelism. Like I can't really control that because if they're not going to hit it, then I got to find somewhere else to go.
To me, for the money, lapping is the way to do it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you want super parallelism, then lapping is probably the way to go.
And lapping is really, if you have them in quantity, it's really not that expensive. Like I pay like maybe $6 or $7 to have them lapped to final thickness.
That's
like,
about what
that's with
double disc grinding is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's with a 10,000 stock, you know, I leave them with 10,000. And the nice thing about, lapping is the surface finish is super fine and it's extremely easy to satin finish rather than like double disc or Blanchard. Like takes a little bit of elbow, or even just like a nice clean surface grind finish takes a little effort to get that, you know, get that off of there. As where like lapping is just like, it's like pretty much a 2000 grit surface finish already. That's just like perfect. It's just a little bit of effort. So
nice. That's rad. I'm going to see what
you decide you want to lap. I have a lapping spot I really like. So I'll give you their information.
Sweet. Yeah. 35 blades, especially once the primaries are all roughed and everything, like it's not a lot of weight and it's a tiny box. So yeah, they'll do saw cutting, double disc, Blanchard, tumble. That's pretty much it. They make gauges and stuff too, but I don't know if they don't offer lapping on their services page. So, but that's not a big deal. There's a lot of spots.
Yeah, the way Nifty Bar specs out their parallelism and tolerancing and shit like that is basically they just like take the industry standard of what double disc grinding is supposed to be, and then they just throw it into their. Like, I don't think they actually have and I mean they're ISO certified or whatever, but like, what does that mean when it comes down to it? It's just like, okay,
paperwork.
Yeah,
it's literally all it is. Paperwork.
All of their stuff is double checked and kept track of, and then that's it. Like, I don't know.
The only issue I've had with Nifty Bar double disking was I had these like all these fixed blades double disked that I do for my buddy Chris, and they came back and a lot of them still had a pretty decent warp to them. Like they obviously sucked them down and got them to thickness, and they mic the same size, but like you put them on a surface plate and they got some bow to them. But they're also like 8 inches long. You know what I mean? So if you're doing a folder blade that's like 3.5 inches long, you know, you're probably not going to have to really contend with that too much. And I mean, honestly, the other side of it too is like, I've done a lot of blades that are not that flat and they usually are fine. You know what I mean? Like
I don't think it's as critical as surface grind.
No, I mean, if you're on washers, obviously it is because you're looking for, you know, there's a certain, you know, it has to be flat for that to work. But like on bearings,
only at like a 1/2 inch diameter though.
Right.
You know,
I mean, the place you'd have an issue with since you're machining your bevels is that if they weren't flat, you'd obviously overcut and you'd have different bevel heights. But like when you're hand grinding blades, like if it's 1 thou or 2 out of flat, like you just compensate for that with the grind and like you just blend it. You can't even tell, you know? So
these are constrained though with the tabs. So it shouldn't vary too much. I mean, even if there was exaggerated, there was 10 thou bow, it's going to suck it flat, mill them, but it's going to move, you know, back to where it was.
Well,
in the unrestrained condition. So
you'll have one side that's going to be flat, but the other one is going to be gripped at the ends on your tab points. Oh wait, your tab runs the full length of the blade.
Exactly.
Never mind. So you're good. It'll flatten the.
There's a lot of thickness around. It should. Well, I mean, if there's a high spot in there, it may not suck it down.
What I'm
Obviously,
thinking.
It's not going to suck it down in the middle, but I think
I'm sure it'll be fine though. I'm sure that, especially if you decide to lap them, the lappers they're deadly flat. So
yeah, I definitely
good.
Either way, what I'm going to do is after grind, if I do any line graining on them, I'm definitely going to do it before I do any hard milling on them, just to at least get all the surface grind lines out. Because the issue that I had on the first ones was the surface grind was in this direction. You know, it was a short direction, obviously for heat and everything. But it took a long time to get the grind lines out because the linear grain obviously needs to be the length of it rather than the width of it. So it took a long time to get those out. And some of them, because there was no tab or anything left, I did roll the edge up at the tip, but not at the tip, but where the flat meets the primary, you know, the skinny section up in the front. By doing it before I do any hard milling, I'll still have the whole tab and everything on there too. And then if it rolls it doesn't matter because I'm going to cut the primary anyways. So
yeah, and at the same time too, you can always go back and take 1 or 2 passes if you scratch it up or something. You know what I mean? But 98% of it's already done, so it's just maybe 1 pass on fresh paper, and you're good to go.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm planning right now. So I think that should be good.
Nice.
So yeah, blades
Alex,
for
did
me.
you finish up and ship? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say blades for me probably for the next couple of days, and then I'm gonna start on the frames. I think frames next.
Nice.
Frames done. I modified all the revisions are done on it. The lock bar axis is all remodeled. I think I sent some images to that. I really need to start posting stuff again on everything, Facebook group and Instagram. I kind of fell off for a little while, so.
Oh yeah.
I want to try to not.
I haven't posted anything in 3 weeks.
I haven't posted shit really.
I was getting worried about you, but I mean, we're in the group text, so it doesn't really doesn't too worry.
I only post stuff on Instagram like Alex so you guys can like it.
Yeah. Alex posts 1,000 stories a day, but no static posts. So if you don't look at his stories, you think his account's dead.
Exactly.
That's pretty much all I do too.
Be.
I mean, but mine aren't really, no vlogging really. I need to get better about.
No, you're going to change your account name to Steingraber Precision Knives instead of just your fucking name, so people know what you do.
Oh, I don't know. I'll get around to it. That's so much other so much other stuff to do.
You got to make another account though, so you can automatically make the second account your personal name, so someone doesn't steal it.
And yeah, I did that one time. And then I don't think I ever told
around you.
I never really told anybody this, except for like in my friend circle. But I had a buddy. His Instagram account it shall remain unnamed, but it was a very polarizing name, and he ended up deciding that he was done with Instagram and he deleted his account, and I very quickly stole the name and sat on it for like 2 or 3 months, and then like slyly gave it a photo that he would have as a photo, and he like made a very specific like kind of post that like was mimicable if you like found the right Google image. And so I just started like making posts that like looked like him, and then I started like contacting people that we know and like saying things like that he would say and just waiting for it to get back to him. And like he like panicked because he's like kind of a crass individual, and so I could pretty much say anything that I wanted to anybody, no matter how vulgar or like derogatory it would be, and like it could be believably perceived that it was him. And so like he hit me up and was like, well, he hit everybody up and was like panicking because he couldn't figure out who it was. And like I look back and it was really kind of shitty because it like actually gave him some pretty severe anxiety. But like he like kind of spiraled for a couple of weeks, like reaching out to Instagram, and like, you know, it was retrospectively, it was not a good move, but I definitely like, I gifted him, like, I want to say like my Christmas gift to him that year was like coming clean of doing it and like handing him the keys to the account back, because it was like, yeah, I guess now that I tell that story, I feel like a pretty big shitbag. But at the time it was like, he was the guy that always like was one up on everybody and talking shit, always had something to say. So it was like the one time ever that like I shittily brought him to his knees about it. And like, yeah, I guess I'm a shitty person because I thought it was pretty funny at the time.
So you were knife haters
now. I was more or less knife haters, but I was trolling one fucking guy. It would be if knife haters just like made an account after somebody that sucks at making knives and then just posted photos of really bad versions of that person's knife portraying as good work, and just trolled that person like relentlessly that way. But
that's pretty much what knife haters did.
yeah. I actually, admittedly, I think we'll see. I think Anand will probably be at this show.
I know. I was thinking about that. I've never talked to him really through his actual Instagram account.
Yeah,
and then just recently finding out that he was that guy.
Yep.
Because it's weird because he always just talks shit, but you don't really know if he's being just a straight up asshole about everything or if he's really just a sarcastic dude or what.
I mean, he was okay when I met him 4 years ago. Like, I heard him say some things to people that like I was like, that's kind of shitty to say to somebody. But you know, our interaction was cool, and I would, like I said, I'd be willing to bet he'll be there. I mean, I don't know how many
I would imagine so.
bald-headed Indian guys are going to be there, but like, yeah, you'll see, you'll know him if you see him.
Because I know he posted. I think the last time I ever interacted with him, it was on one of the Maker Syndicate posts, and he was like, "Oh, cool! It was a mid-tech convention or whatever." And I'm like, "You got to be the biggest fucking retard in the entire knife industry," and so we just basically talk shit to each other a little bit, but. Now knowing that he was Knife Haters, him and I had talked quite a bit before, when all that other bullshit was going down, and he seemed to be pretty cool. So,
oh man,
yeah, I'm sure you'll get your chance to talk to him again this weekend. This show is actually, I was kind of looking, so they released the map. They released the map, the exhibitor map, to the public. We got an email just kind of saying who was where, and I'm actually pretty stoked. I told you, like, our block is pretty hot, man. We got
I gotta check
Americans right behind me. We got Edward R. I don't know if you know Edward Ratatouille, or Ratatouille, however you say his last name. He's a really nice guy. He's right next to us on one side. Brian Brown is behind us, next to Kurt, and then across the way is Ephros. And we have Danny Court. I don't know if you know Court Knives, Koert. He's from Michigan guy, super nice. We have I'm blanking on who, but yeah, we have a
list.
Yeah, dude, Mike, I'm super excited. Mike Bond, TI2 is like Mike's become a homie over the years. I love that guy, but he is going to be. I think he's going to be there with TI2. I think. I don't think he's going to be there with High-Techs, but he is right across the way, like diagonal from us. Edison Barajas is right behind us in our block. Yeah, they kind of, I think that I was looking at how Sacco did it, and I'm pretty sure he picked us all kind of together to put us like kind of in the same area. Nice. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a lot of bodies at this show. I mean, there's a lot of like big name guys.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that it's going to be a pretty busy show. I don't think that people would continue to come to this show year after year if it wasn't like worth it. You know what I mean? Like Sacco's been doing the show, I think, for like 4 or 5 years, and I think it's going to be a really good one. And it's also kind of intimidating though, right? Like, cause when you have a show like this and everybody's bringing the heat, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you hope, hey, is all my stuff going to sell? You know what I mean? It's different at Maker Syndicate when it's like, there's a very few people and even fewer people that are doing like, kind of like what I'm doing with like hand finishing, hand grinding. Like there just wasn't a lot of like market competition for like what I was purveying at that show. As we're all kind of in the exact same realm at this show. So it's just like, yeah, hope my auctions do good. Hope all my lottos fill up. You know what I mean? You just don't know.
There's a lot of
the fear of the unknown. Yeah, I saw Koenig is going to be there, so that'll be cool. He has like a double booth.
Some dudes have 3 booths. Dude, it's fucking wild.
Strider has 3, I think.
Protec's got 3. Strider, Tracker Dan, Springboard Group. Never heard of them.
I don't know them.
Tracker Dan.
Never heard of Tracker.
Tracker Dan. His fixed blade stuff is like incredibly in high demand.
Truger, got 3. Koenig's got 2. Yeah,
who else is? I saw Vegas Forge is going to be there. I don't think Nichols is coming. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good guys though. So, and I mean, even more. Do you follow RJ Martin?
I might have. I think I used to. I don't think I do anymore.
Yeah, obviously he's doing Friday Night Blade Affair. He's not doing CCKS, but he did this like hybrid, like carbon fiber, titanium. Like if you go to his Instagram and look at it, it's like the thinnest. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they're like inlaid together to like create a frame that has like titanium for the structure, but like an overlay, like carbon fiber. But it was like, it's so impossibly thin in 3D. And I'm like, man, I don't even know how he made that. It's probably like 2 or 3 posts back. RJ Martin is, I think that's just
his red one.
Yeah, the red one. It's so thin.
Yeah, it's super thin.
Like the blade is thin, or
looks cool.
No, it's a handle.
Oh,
who else is going to be there? Toshi's going to be there. I think Sinkovich is going to be there.
Nice.
Toshi's
cool.
Obviously,
Toshi's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, Toshi's the man for sure, and he's made a lot of knives for the show. I almost got Santiago to come out with me. I had him like looking at. Yeah, dude, some of his material combos are kind of corny. But like, I really like if you see, there's one he posted like of the inside of one of his frames, like how he pocketed it.
Yeah, that's
and
what I'm
like his take on kind of. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? Like I think I commented on that photo. Like
even the
everything about this knife is pretty interesting. Yeah, exactly.
All
and
around
like
the pivots,
the pocketing is like 3D to follow the contour so that it get like maximum weight reduction and shit. Like,
yeah, it's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Sweet.
I don't really like some of the textures, you know, are kind of like overly machined to me. Like, but I can appreciate like he's certainly putting a lot of thought into how he's doing things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know who else is going to be there. I'm blanking. I was looking at the list, but yeah, it's going to be a good show, man. I'm excited you're coming with, and
yeah, it'll be cool.
Should be fun to see everybody.
What time does it start? You want me to?
The doors for VIP open at VIP doors open at 11. You can pick up our badges at 8. The hotel I'm staying at, I think it's connected to the convention center. Like I got the vibe that they were like one and the same, but I could be wrong. I probably was gonna wake up whenever I wake up, just because of the time change. I'm sure I'll be up at like 5 or 4 or 5, depending on how late I stay up on Friday night. But I was probably just gonna grab some breakfast, and then I kind of really enjoyed both at Portland and at Makers getting there like pretty early, like an hour and a half or 2 hours early. Yeah. And just being able to like cut it up with guys and like set up slowly and just like, bullshit and stuff.
Yeah, that part was cool.
So that's my plan. I don't know what time you want to leave, but if you want to meet for breakfast, or if you want to just get up there just in time for the show, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that I can meet up with, but it's up to you entirely.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'll figure it out probably Friday night or something. See,
sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, we already know I'm going to be gone. Family already knows I'm going to be gone pretty much the whole day, so.
Nice.
Should be chill. Try and leave
I'm sure you're more than, depending on how late you want to stay too, like I'm sure we'll get dinner after the show.
Yeah.
I probably have to leave by about 8:45 or 9 o'clock because I have to pick my brother and my cousin up from the airport at 10:30. And I think it's like a solid, I imagine there's not going to be any traffic at fucking 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday, right?
Probably not.
All right, cool. Because I remember like when I was down there visiting you, one of the last times, like it was like crazy traffic Monday through Friday, and then like Saturday everything was dead. And I'm like, how is this so jammed? And like now it's just a normal highway.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, everybody going in and out of downtown for work. So yeah, think about how many thousands of people are in those buildings all day.
Yeah. I want to touch base too, just because, I told you I have kind of a hard deadline here to get cut out. We wanted to make sure and record this week. I know last week I was facetious. I said to you guys, we're going to be more structured this coming week. And then I had show prep and these guys got sick and we have to delay. We're delaying our, the structure just a little bit. And quite honestly, maybe next week.
Do it anyways. Who knows?
I'm sure we will, just because we'll get sick of doing this eventually, or maybe we won't. But this felt like an episode where I don't feel like we were really rambling too much. It's more just like, State of the Union with the show coming up, what you guys are working on. We talked about some logistical stuff as, you're working with Double Disc and whatever other outsource process. So we're kind of touching on some stuff that is applicable to guys and maybe can spark some questions, for when we do get the chance to do that. Because I think one of the most underrated things within this kind of custom knife making is vendor relationships and vendor reliability, right? Like we're still small shops. We don't have the ability to do everything that we need to do for our businesses, and we are heavily reliant on other people performing and purveying outsourced processes to us. And I think that it's really underrated, as everybody's jammed up right now, that like working with people, figuring out how they need to do what they need to do for you, figuring out what their true timelines are, getting them to be able to be honest with you when they're quoting lead times, because I've found so many times that they'll talk out of both sides of their mouth. Oh yeah, we'll have time. If you can get it here in a week, it'll be turned around in 5 days. And I get it there in a week and they're like, oh, we're actually a month out. And you're like, you want to have that kind of like relationship where guys aren't afraid to be honest with you about what they're able to do for you.
Yeah. I think it's a little different too. I mean, I don't know how much you were involved in it at your old shop, but dealing with vendors, knowing what information that they need up front, I think helps expedite that process quite a bit too. Or you're not spending 2 or 3 days back and forth trying to figure out what information they need because they're not actually asking you. They don't ask.
I think that a lot of these,
it's annoying. So,
well, especially in knives, right? Because you have YouTube machinists or whatever, like most of these people don't even know what like a tolerance print is. You know what I mean? And like a lot of these places are used to getting a blueprint with tolerances, and it's like, okay, machine the thickness, here's the thickness tolerance. Like they can refer to the blueprint. You know, like most like knife guys, you're lucky to get a fucking napkin sketch. You know what I mean? Like it's just,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't personally provide prints anymore, but I certainly know like here are the tolerances that you need, and here's like the information that you can do. You know, and so I try and definitely be upfront with as much of that as I can. But yeah, that's a lesson to be learned, is learning what your vendors need, because that's the thing. If they don't have what they need, well, now they have a scapegoat for why they can delay you, and they'll take 3 days to contact you. And then when you get it, they have 3 days to open the email. Before you know it, it's been a week, and they're like, oh, well, you didn't provide us everything we needed to get started. So you got backburnered, and we'll fit you in whenever we can.
Exactly.
You know, and so knowing what to do when you need to do it is huge.
Yeah, I think making a print's a good idea. I haven't thought about doing it on this. Not for
even if you just give a section view.
Yeah.
It's not like you're having anybody do any machining. They literally just need a section view.
Yeah.
Like a 3D view, a section view, and like just some tolerances and dimensions. Like it's not complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be much. Even if it's just
I honestly think that like that these vendors they take you more seriously as a customer if you provide that stuff.
Exactly. If you go in knowing
100%.
what information they're going to need right away, they're going to know that you're not, you know, some guy in his garage.
Yeah. And if you take the time to make your print have like, you know, a title block with like, you know, when the drawing was drawn and like who drew it and checked it and your logo and dates and stuff and revs and all that. Like, dude, people see that and like, oh, this is legit.
I got a cage code and everything. So, which is easy to get. I mean, you get it in like an hour. It's super easy, but it legitimizes everything. It's like, cool, I got a commercial and government entity, you know, number. So, but now if anybody has my cage code, they can find out where my house is, which is kind of annoying. So I never.
Yeah, I was like fortunate enough too when I was like setting things up with Nifty Bar, like when I was in my garage. They just wanted like a DXF, so it was just like, oh, cool, I can just send that over.
Nice
for water jet, and then the tolerancing for, you know, the grinding and stuff was simple, easy to.
Yeah, water jet's
funny
easy.
too, because like so I like got a quote from heat treating and stuff this past week. It was last week, and then let's see, not Monday, so Tuesday I sent stuff over there. But it was funny because like I sent the PO over and all that stuff, and then the guy came back to me, emailed me back. It was like, there's no hardness tolerance on here, and I'm just like, fuck. I was like, I can't believe I forgot to put that on there. Like it's such amateur hour, but I was like sick and I like forgot. So yeah. Anyway, if you guys want to, if anyone has any questions about like tolerancing and like what you should send to these vendors and stuff like that, you don't need certain, you know, machines and tools in your garage to do all this stuff. You obviously send things out for heat treat, send things out for grinding, send things out for, you know, machining and stuff. And if you need help,
another thing is underrated is like most of these vendors like on their website have access to like a PDF of like their order form that tells you what they need.
Yeah.
So it's like, rather than just sending a box of parts with like your name and phone number scribbled on a piece of paper inside of the box, like you can find like the documentation that they need and like attach it to the outside of your box, like heat treating and stuff. I don't even talk to Hanson Bulk anymore. I just put their form inside of it with my return address. They send it back. I get an invoice for the payment. I remit it. And like, I don't talk to anybody unless they have an issue, you know, like when I was like my last batch of Magna Cut, they're like when I had or not my last batch, but when I was prepping these plates for wire for these Mac projects, and I had these 6x6 plates, and they were like, so you want these 64 Rockwell, but what's the tolerance on the flatness out of heat treat? And I'm like, well, they're getting lapped afterwards, so I mean, as good as you can get it. And they're like, dude, if we can hold 10 thou on these plates, I'll be surprised. Like, this is heating the fuck out of this and letting it soak and quenching it from that temperature over 6 inches. Like, I said, just do the best you can. I'm not the first person to do it this way. And I sent the plates to lap, and they never said anything, even though they said they wanted it to be like plus or minus 6 thousandths on flatness. And I was just like, there's no way we're hitting that number, but I'm not going to say shit until they get it and see what happens. And they didn't say nothing. They apparently got it good, even though they were like 20 thousandths out of flat. So it worked out, but whatever. Fuck it. I was worried that my wire start holes, that I poked all my wire start holes into the steel before they went to heat treat. And I was worried they were going to warp so bad and then get lapped, and like the holes are going to be so out of parallel that they weren't going to be able to feed the wire through the wire start holes. You know what I mean? But like, because I mean, obviously they were stacking them up like 16 high. So it's like feeding through the wire start holes in one plate is one. But if you got a bunch of holes that are all cattywampus and you actually have like 10 thousandths wire has 11.5 thousandths of true clearance to get through. It's like, I don't know if that's going to work, but they didn't say shit.
The water will find its way through it. I think that's usually how they feed them, right? They'll clip it, and then the high pressure water, and they just feed the water out.
Yeah, you have a high pressure water jet that goes through. Exactly, 100%. Cool, guys. It's been about an hour.
Sweet.
I unfortunately have a hard out. Did you guys have anything else you want to touch base on for the next couple of minutes, or are you guys good for the day?
Not too much. I mean, it's pretty chill right now. I mean, we both, or all three of us, have just kind of been
good.
Cranking away quietly. So
I'm just sick.
Not a huge amount of information today.
We'll do listener questions probably next week. I'll remind you.
I'll make a title.
Something.
I'm going to post it when I'm on the plane. That'll be my task, is to start making story posts and garnering questions for our next week's episode.
There you go.
And then I'll tag you guys in it, and then you can just repost it, and then we can all have the same look. But cool. We'll have a lot. Ken, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of days, guys.
Same.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of updates. We'll talk about the show. We'll kind of go through whatever. But wish me luck finishing this last night. Hopefully the gods are on my side and I don't have anything catastrophic happen, and I can actually finish it today and have one day tomorrow to chill before I fly out on Friday morning. That would be like a godsend. I'm sure it won't work out that way, but looking forward to seeing you, Alex. I hope you feel better soon, man, and get back to working. I'm looking forward to seeing all your new work holding in your machine. It looks so pretty. There's something, nothing better than having a brand new, like, really sexy set of work holding that's going in the machine, man. Totally changes the vibe. So,
dude, I'm so pumped about it because I feel like things are just gonna go that much smoother,
Yeah,
that's all we're searching for is efficiency and consistency, man. That's it's not about being badass. It's just, can my job get a little bit easier and more repeatable?
So much easier.
They do look nice too. I need to stop talking shit on them. They actually do make some really cool stuff. So.
I'm actually gonna contact them.
Especially since
I'm gonna contact them. They're gonna be a sponsor.
There we go. Just tell them don't watch that episode where I'm like, they fucking.
I'm definitely hitting them up.
The Deuce vices that I had were the worst dual station vices I've ever owned. So fuck them. Yes, the way that their soft jaw is attached, you had to
those were super shitty.
That held the vice. The screws that held the vice body to the table or fixture plate were the same screws that the center jaw was located with. So you had to undo what held the body to the table just to swap the jaws out, and then you had to retram in because they want you to buy fucking Rock Lock. They spend an extra $2,000 so that you can just use this for, your jaws. It's like, no, I just want to mount these to my table. Well, you're going to retrim them in every time you change your center jaw.
Well, that's how I am with
and
vice,
soft jaws through them cost $130 a set.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
So, anyways, that's my rant.
But hear me out. If they throw us
they sponsor the podcast,
free shirts and stuff, and they're sponsoring the podcast,
there we go.
Jurgens got shirts copied Lang. Jurgens are the ones that copied Lang. Fifth Axis
Jurgens is actually right down the street from here, and
there's only one thing I use Jurgens for, and it ain't work holding, baby.
Hey, this is a PG podcast.
That's a 90s joke.
My wife's gonna listen to this and be like, "You're a fucking moron." All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna get stepping. You guys have a good week. Ken, I'll see you this weekend.
Yeah,
everybody, thanks for listening. Yeah, I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody checking in this week. Thanks for listening to another Ramblesode of the Sharpened Perspectives podcast, and we'll catch up with you next week. Take care.
Yeah, new logo too. Don't get mixed up.
Oh, new logo.
There we go.